Hi, I'm Charlene Nelson from cometochrist.ca, and today I'm going to talk about how Christians should view their emotions. So there are extremes within Christianity where there are believers who are always searching for their next emotional high, and they might put a lot of emphasis and value on their emotions and follow their emotions. They might also consider their proximity to God to be based on their feelings. So if they feel really close to God right now, they are close to God. If they are feeling bad today, then they're not sure where God is. And we don't want to be like that. But today I'm addressing more those who recognize the danger of following their own emotions. And I want to acknowledge that the Bible is full of emotions, so we can't ignore this topic, but we should seek to understand it biblically. So there are two truths I want to acknowledge today about emotions. So one is that emotions are a part of being created in the image of God. Randy Alcorn says, emotions are part of our God-created humanity, not sinful baggage to be destroyed. So God made all people in his own image. So he made us capable of feeling joy, anger, envy, sorrow, affection, all things that God himself feels and expresses often in his word. So of course the fall has impacted our emotions, and so that our emotions are tainted by sin, and they're often also out of touch with reality. We can be prone to really extreme emotions, like anger, or sometimes we don't feel what we should feel. Perhaps we should feel sad about some of the horrible realities in the world, and we don't feel as much as we should. So that's number two, is that our emotions are affected by the fall, and therefore they leave us vulnerable. So there are three ways that our emotions can make us vulnerable. The first is that they make us vulnerable to being hurt. And our emotions can leave us feeling fragile. So because we're emotional creatures, we can experience brokenheartedness, sadness, disappointment. Sometimes we struggle with insecurity and many different hurtful feelings. The next way is that our emotions can leave us vulnerable to hardening our hearts. So if you experience hurt in life and you don't allow that hurt to be tended to by God's loving care, then over time, that hurt can actually make us harden our hearts. So you can see this when you put walls up around your heart to protect yourself, because you're afraid of being hurt again. There are people who they try to stop loving others or accepting love. I mean, we can see this is common in children who move around the foster care system. They have attachment issues often because they're very afraid of being loved by somebody because their experience is that they've been hurt. So our emotion can leave us vulnerable to hardening our hearts in various ways. The next way is that our emotions, because they're affected by the fall, they can leave us vulnerable to sin. And this, I think, is daily. So if you think of anger, often leads to sin, leads to retaliation, slander, violence, bitterness. Disappointment can lead you to self-pity and to selfishness. Or fear can lead to faithlessness and failing to obey God due to just being fearful. So if both of these things are true about our emotions, one, that our emotions are a reflection of being made in God's image, and two, being that our emotions are affected by the fall, then how should we handle our emotions and think about them? So usually we either vent our emotions in a way that is tainted by sin, or we suppress and ignore our emotions. So first, to address suppressing our emotions, some Christians say that we should just tell our feelings to shut up, or that we should just put them in a closet and lock them up. And you might think I'm making that up, but actually I've read people who say these things. So sometimes we might have to do that temporarily. I think of a time when I was very grumpy. I was at a bike park with my family and there was only one picnic table. And I really wanted that picnic table. And I literally felt angry at the people who got there first because they had the picnic table. And in my flesh, I wanted to march over to them and declare my right to the picnic table, which is extremely foolish and immature. And I needed to be like, Charlene, you need to shut up right now. That is a horrible idea. So sometimes we have to do that. Otherwise, we're going to make a fool out of ourselves. But that needs to be dealt with also, later or in the moment in a biblical way too. So to give a biblical example, Psalm 32 says, I will instruct you and teach you in the way you should go. I will counsel you with my eye upon you. Be not like a horse or a mule without understanding, which must be curbed with bit and bridle, or it will not stay with you. So what the Bible's saying here is that we aren't a horse or a mule, that we got to just kick ourselves and our emotions into submission just by telling ourselves just to shut up and ignore our feelings. The Bible says that God will instruct us and teach us in how we should go and how we should act, and he'll give us counsel. So we should be coming to him, not just simply telling ourselves to get into line and walk straight and be obedient like a mule. So the next way that we unbiblically handle emotion is that we vent without wisdom. So Proverbs 29:11 says, a fool gives full vent to his spirit, but a wise man quietly holds it back. So that shows the wisdom of not giving a full vent, which often, if we do that, we do it sinfully. So if we take these things both into consideration, how should we biblically handle our emotions? And the answer, I believe, is that we expose them to God's truth and to the tending hand of Jesus, our great physician. So an example of this is Psalm 139, which says, search me, O God, and know my heart. Try me and know my thoughts. And see if there be any grievous way in me, and lead me in the way everlasting. So the psalmist is not ignoring his feelings and his thoughts. He's saying, God, please search me, and you know my heart, and show me what's in my heart, so that I can know if there's a grievous way in me. I want to know about it, so that God can lead me through that. And sometimes we might need also to ask for help from somebody to help us to see what God says. So our emotions, both our positive and negative emotions, should drive us to God's side. We're complex people, and God made us that way. So we shouldn't despise that God made us as emotional people. So we often make a mess out of God's gifts. But that doesn't mean that the gift itself is bad. So if you think of sex, God said that was a good gift. And of course, there's a lot of people who are making a mess of God's gift, but God doesn't want us to say sex is bad. It's the misuse of that is bad. But it's not corrupt in itself. So if God gave us emotions, and if they're a reflection, are meant to be a reflection of him, then we can view emotions also as a gift that can serve us, that can point us to God in our need, and that we can reflect him through our emotions. Our emotions can have great potential to grant good to ourselves and to grant good to others. So we can thank God for giving us our capacity to feel. If we didn't have that, how would we be able to rejoice with those who rejoice, or to weep with those who weep? So I hope that was helpful for today. I plan to address this topic more later, so please visit back, and thank you so much for watching.